Hey, I'm Randy, and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we help everyone find high-value hi-fi, home theater, and headphone equipment. And today, I'm very excited. We're talking about a power supply. Not only a power supply, the Aiyima 48-volt, 5.2 amp power supply. Does this make the Aiyima A07 a true giant killer? I don't know. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about this power supply and if it's the last piece in the puzzle. We are getting very close to 100,000 subscribers, and when we go over 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away a whole bunch of stuff from SVS, from Emotiva, from U-Turn, Fluence, ISO Acoustics, Periodic Audio, Skit, whole bunch of stuff. So to enter, you need to subscribe. Fill out the Google form that I'll link in the description. Follow me on Instagram. If you don't have Instagram, not a huge deal breaker. But follow me on Instagram and on TikTok at Cheap Audio Man. Today's sponsor is Sith Audio, Audiophile, AM, transistor radios. They're making a comeback. Sith Audio is at the forefront. You don't know what you're missing until you get a Sith Audio transistor radio. $999 for a limited time. It's going to change your life. AM's making a comeback. Don't miss out. The Aiyima A07, which is this, is one of my favorite hi-fi products. Why? Well, because one, it's super cheap, about $80. Sometimes it even goes on sale for $70 or $75. Two, it sounds fantastic. It utilizes the Texas Instruments 3255 amp chip, which is well regarded in the DIY community and in the hi-fi community as being a very natural sounding amplifier. This is a Class D amplifier. Most Class Ds, up to recently, have a specific sound signature to them, or at least all the ones that I've tried. A little bit harsh, a little bit thin, a little bit edgy at times on the top end, and the bottom end sounds a bit anemic. Not as full. Not caramelly. I like caramelly, lower mid-range and bass. This is the stock power supply that comes with it. This is a 32 volt, 5 amp power supply. Okay, nothing to sneeze at. Another reason why the 3255 chip is well regarded is because it can put out a lot of power, depending on how much power you're feeding it. Enter the 48 volt power supply from Aiyima. 48 volt, 5.2 amps, okay? Here's some comparison for you. Guess which one is the 48 amp power supply, okay? This is big. This is bigger. Very excited about this because I thought that this could possibly be the last piece of the puzzle to make the Aiyima A07 a true giant slayer, giant killer, because I just did a op amp change. I rolled some op amps, yeah, with some Sparkos Labs discrete op amps. Put them right in there. It improved the sound signature. It improved the clarity. The only thing that's missing is some juggernaut levels of power. With the stock power supply, this gets a little tricky. You can go and look at the Texas Instruments 3255 amp chip, spec sheet from Texas Instruments. I did pull up the listing on Amazon for the A07, and they do have a power chart depending upon speaker impedance and then the power supply that you have. This one is actually not listed on that chart. With the stock power supply, you're getting about 75 watts into 4 ohms. Let me check for sure. Yeah, stock power supply, 78 watts into 4 ohms and 65 watts into 8 ohms. Okay, nothing to sneeze at. It sounds great already. And as it is, the stock power supply powers just about every speaker that I have. Maybe really, really, really low sensitivity speakers, maybe less than 85. And if you really want to get the neighbors angry, get some loud music going, maybe you need more power. But in my experience, when you add more power, oftentimes the bass gets tightened up, better control, and the soundstage gets bigger. It can, in some instances, be that way. Of course, it depends upon the amplifier. But with the amplifiers that I've had that just have a ton of power, that's kind of what I've noticed. DIYers have been doing this for a while. They buy like computer power supplies and variable power supplies where you can change the voltage and things like that. So people do that already. This is the first product kind of out of the box that Aiyima is selling to complement the A07. I compared the 48 volt 5.2 amp power supply directly to the stock 32 volt 5 amp power supply, and I ran it through the Project speaker box S5, I think what they are. Very pretty speakers. And I had the Geshelli Labs J2 DAC feeding the A07. Sonic changes. I didn't expect some, but there were some there. And they weren't, I can't say that they were subtle. They weren't in your face, but they were more than subtle. Little bit filled out on the bottom end. That was surprising to me because I already felt like the A07 was pretty full. All of the Aiyima line, the D03, which is an integrated DAC amp with Bluetooth, that has a different chip, but it still has a fuller sound than something like the Loxg A30 or the SMSL 8018 or the Topping EX5, maybe? I can't remember all these model numbers. The Aiyima stuff already sounds more full, more natural. The larger power supply added a bit to that. I also felt like the bass was more present. However, this is not all roses and gravy. There is a problem. At least there's a problem with the power supply that I got. And that is noise. Specifically at the 1600 to 1700 hertz area. There is definitely an audible noise coming from the speaker that increases as you turn up the volume when no music is playing. I tried the same test on the 32 volt power supply and it wasn't there. And I'm actually going to record it so you can hear it yourself. And then you can make the judgment call on whether or not you want to roll the dice. But if I'm hearing some distortion, some noise, I would really think that it's going to be picked up on measurements. At my listening levels, it didn't really bother me. And I didn't really hear the noise until I got about to the 12 o'clock position on the volume dial, but it's still there. And to get over it, to cover it up, you're going to have a louder signal to noise ratio. So let's take a look at what I heard and maybe you can hear it too. All right, so here we go. I'm filming this on my phone, so it's probably not going to sound perfect, okay? So this is the 32 volt power supply. That is right there. So this is the stock power supply. I'll turn this up to 12 o'clock, okay? Okay, I know you're not going to hear this very well, but I'm going to put up the real-time analyzer. Okay, so ambient in here is about 30 dB. And I'm going to stop talking and see where it falls down to. As far as like the frequency. So you can see the frequency jumping around right there. I'm going to shut up. So there's no peaks, no weirdness. It just goes down kind of to, what it's really hearing is just the ambient noise. Okay. So now I'm going to switch out the power supply to the 48 volt 5.2 amp. See what that sounds like. Okay. So now I have the 48 amp power supply hooked up right up at noon there on the volume dial. And let's see what we hear over there. So right now it looks like it is kind of being okay. I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to turn the volume up to about 75%. So you can see it hitting about the 1600 hertz. I'm going to turn it up to 100%. Okay, I'm going to turn up the gain on the mic a little bit to see if you can hear that better from whatever you're doing. All right, I'm going to turn the gain down now. Now I'm turning the volume down to 12 o'clock or half. Now I'm going to turn it back up full bore. So, I don't know if that's a deal breaker for you. It kind of is for me. I thought maybe this was the last piece that was going to make this amplifier, with modifications, really just destroy stuff that was a lot more expensive or sound better. And I think it does better just with a stock power supply. I would need to spend a lot more time with it, but hearing it just kind of by accident is kind of a red flag for me. Sometimes I will put my ear up to stuff just to see if I can hear any type of noise. The stock power supply at full tilt has just the quietest little hiss. You know, it's kind of like snow in the background. This is about a 1700 hertz test tone that's coming through, and it's audible at 12 o'clock, and it's audible at full tilt as well. 9 o'clock, I can't really hear it with the naked ear, but it's still there. If you're cool with that, yeah, get it, but I wouldn't. I would wait. I would see if you could find a different power supply, and that's even if you need the extra power, because I think the 32 volt 5 amp power supply does just fine by itself, and as I said, it drives all the speakers that I need it to drive. I was going to put the ELAC Unify first generation on here because that's my most difficult to drive speaker. But when I heard that test tone, I was like, I'm pulling the ripcord. This is it. So I'm disappointed. I wish it was better. I wish it didn't have... I would even put up with a little bit of noise, like the hiss, the kind of the snow noise. But that 1700 hertz tone, I don't think most people are going to be able to get over that. And I am sorry, because there hasn't been one thing from Aiyima that I haven't liked until now. But there's something wrong with that. That it shouldn't be doing that. Maybe I got a bad one. I don't know. I don't know how many reviews are out there to look at, but this was my experience with the product. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon. Patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms. We also have a Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also sign up for Amazon Music or Tidal. There are links in the description. If you click and you sign up, even if it's just for a trial, I get a couple of bucks. You can also use the affiliate links to purchase anything in the description. Most things. I'll link the power supply in there. If you want to try it, if you want to take a chance on it, do it. You can return it if it doesn't sound good. It's $75. I'll also link the A07 in there as well. So, don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, maybe through your Aiyima A07 with not an upgraded power supply. Just leave it as it is. Maybe get some Sparkos Labs op amps and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.